Ladies and gentlemen, today is a very special podcast.
I'm scared already.
Brennan is scared already. He's got goose dumps all over his face and arms. Shut up.
Goose dumps?
We have paranormal investigator, catcher of ghosts, Chad Calek in the house. Now, it's important to realize that we got a room full of believers, and we got one non-believer, and that guy's name is Brian.
And that's why when you reached out to me, right? We have people that want to come on the show all the time. We actually have a booker who books a talent, so it's very rare I see him. But my brother sends it to me and goes, this is all you. So I'm like, what? And I read the email. I'm like, oh, shit, this guy's legit. Callan's super skeptical. It's October. I believe
it's Halloween.
I believe in all this stuff. I've been, you can see me on ghost adventures, hunting my own ghost. But is it fair to call you a ghost hunter? Like, can we call you that?
Look, that's absolutely fair. But, I mean, my profession by trade is I'm a documentarian. I'm a documentary filmmaker. For a good, I guess, decade straight, I made my financial living doing paranormal shows and things like that. You ghost hunter. I'm a guy. I've ghost hunted all over the world. Been doing it for about 25 years.
Can I make one corny joke? When you
can make as many.
Don't they slip through your net? No, give me a second.
Terrible joke.
All right. I told you it was corny. All right, keep going.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, I was fortunate for a while. I mean, the Hollywood trend thing kind of happened, right? Where all these paranormal shows came out of the woodwork. And all of us, I think, loosely kind of knew each other before the shows started picking different ones.
Because you guys would cross paths or something? Sure. Like, would you be at a haunted place and like, bro, like they beat you to it?
It's like tomorrow if five shows came out of, UFC fighters, former guys, like you would probably either be on it or no.
Oh, for sure.
Right. You know them all. It's the same kind of thing, man. I mean, if you're into it, you run across paths. There's different websites. Yeah, y'all kind of know each other. I mean, it was, for a long time, I mean, it was just a passion because it was just kind of a road that my life just unfortunately went down in a really weird way.
That's what I want to know. It's like, how does one, because there's no class in school, like ghost hunting 101. No. You're like, damn, this is my passion.
No.
Like, where along the way did you realize, like, A, you're into this, B, you believe in it, C, you decide to make a living in it? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot going on.
Well, it's interesting. The living was the accident part, but how it all happened. Listen, I grew up in a family that was absolutely atheist. My dad was a career Air Force man. I mean, very mathematical minded family. We never spoke about ghosts or God or anything like that. I mean, my dad used to make jokes, I remember at one point there was this joke always sticks in my head. There's this we're going through a drought in our area, and my dad said, we can pray for Jesus to water the lawn or turn on the fucking hose. And it stuck with me.
I like that. See, that's my kind of guy.
Yeah,
that's a pragmatic. That's a pragmatic science.
Well, my dad was an engineer for the Air Force.
There you go.
I was born in Eglin Air Force Base, which is the Gulf Breeze, one of the world renowned for UFO sightings. And my father, when their stories would come on the air of, UFOs, my dad would be like, that's our shit. We're flying out there at night. You know what I mean? So right away, I was just like, so I never considered, it just wasn't part of our life.
Okay.
My father, as I started to get older, he got out of the Air Force to spend more time with my brother and I. And he was the engineer at a concrete company. And he was in a horrible explosion. Where 3/4 of his body was burnt 3rd degree.
Jesus.
And this, it's funny we call this the darkest of days, but this happened the same day that I had broke my ankle playing basketball in elementary school. So my mother is just like losing her shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, rough day for the Calek.
Everything is going wrong. So 3 days later, I got out of the hospital after having surgery on the ankle, and so they brought me to say goodbye to my father. I mean, they said he's not going to make it, not through the morning.
What?
So I literally had to go in and say goodbye to him. I mean, he couldn't speak. I mean, they had him, when you're burned, you have no skin to hold in fluids. So they just pump you full of fluids.
Oh, wow.
So he's naturally 170 pounds. He's 250 in there because they're just pumping fluid through him. And they're like, he's not going to make it. We say goodbye. Next morning, makes it. I'm like, whoa. Doctors come back in, say goodbye again. So go through the whole fucking process again. Makes it. third day, the doctor's like, well, we're not going to go through this again. I mean, we don't know how he's making it, but he's making it. And my mom did something interesting at that time. The only place that he could really be touched, that he wasn't burnt or blistered or badly burned, was across his face and his forehead. So my mother would stand behind him for hours on end, and she would just put her hand on his head, and she would just hold it there.
That kind of makes me want to cry.
And when she would whisper to him, I'm never going to leave you. I'm here, you know? God. And about a week later, he was going in and out of shock, so he couldn't really talk. And about a week later, they brought her papers wanting to, like, amputate his arm, cut his leg off. And he was telling her, no, I'll be okay. Just keep healing me. And he believed, through her, he was being healed. So this is the first time I'd ever heard my father speak of
in
some
metaphysical
kind
terms.
of, right.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? 6 weeks later, my dad's at home. Medical miracle. Doctors have no idea how he's healing so fast. They have no idea how he made it. My mom refused to sign the papers to amputate his arm and his leg.
Tight move, Mom.
Regains full use of his arm and his leg. And he says, not a mystery, not a mystery. You know, I went to a place, I found what he believed to be God, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. He said, through my mother's touch on his forehead, he was healed.
That was his anchor.
This is what he said. Now, my dad is a straight shooting dude. Mm-hmm. So when he said this to me, I mean, it was just kind of like, I can't tell him he's wrong. Who can tell him he's wrong? You know?
It's also one of the most painful things to go through because they have to keep grafting
Horrific.
Skin and taking the bandages.
Situation.
They have to take the bandages off, right, and then put them back on.
The truth is, you never heal. Even now, every morning of his life, when he sleeps, the scar tissue pulls tight. So when he wakes up every day, he has to stretch it all out, which is excruciatingly painful over his whole body.
Wow.
And even that, I mean, learning to live like that.
So that was the first time where you considered a higher being?
Yes. I did not pray one time.
You probably didn't know how to.
Not once. It was senseless to me. Pray to who? You know what I mean? For what? I need a real doctor to fix my dad. You know what I mean? Not, you know, I was turning on the hose, right? Like I'm not. So because scar tissue, it doesn't sweat. My parents couldn't live in the Texas climate, which is, 9-10 months of blazing, summer. But their family was from the Midwest, and my dad was out of work, so financially, they were falling apart, So they moved back to the Midwest. At least they get 7-8 months of winter, and it was an easier climate for him because he couldn't go outside in the heat because he'd have a heat stroke. He can't sweat. God, so, I mean, like an 80-degry day to him is a 120-degree day, right? So it was a whole new way of life. And, my father, he admitted, understandably, he wasn't really comfortable being around large crowds. Children would often be scared at times of his hands, and, so he wanted to live in a smaller town, you know what I mean? He wanted to try to get away from the big city, and I think also kind of figure out how he's going to live, right? Moving forward without the watchful eyes of everybody judging, his life and what he's going to do. So my family heard of this town called Persia, Iowa, middle of fucking nowhere, about 45 minutes dead west of Omaha. And we show up to this house. They were looking for a house. But my dad, by the way, he won a settlement. The outfit that he was wearing, right, for this concrete company as an injured, they gave them outfits to wear, right, or uniforms. And the uniform tag said that it was 100% cotton, which, according to OSHA safety regulations, is supposed to be, for reasons like this. It turns out it was 40% polyester.
Oh, so it melted into his skin.
It melted into his skin, which made it obviously tremendously worse. So it wasn't a lot of money. It was enough where they could buy a house, you know what I mean? Like, if they put it away the rest of their life and lived off just the interest, they could eat soup every week, you know what I mean? And not have to worry about going under, per se. But so I was there. I remember the day we pulled up to this house, and it was this huge country house with 3 stories, like 5-6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-story, 4-car garage. And I remember my dad just going, something's wrong about this. Like, why? I honestly think the price of the house was under $50,000. And my dad was like, why? Like something is wrong here. And he pulled up and he did not want to go into the house. I remember it like yesterday. He did not want to go in. And my mother was the opposite. Sold. This was her dream home. Like it was bizarre how driven she was that this was going to be it. Met the owner. The owner says, I'm dumping it. It's haunted. I just got it legally. I think there's some, he at least thought there was some legal, which there are in a lot of states, there are legal laws that say you have to disclose.
Like if someone was murdered there, stuff like that.
Or if they
right?
think it's haunted, you
Yeah.
have to disclose it. This gentleman, I think, believed that was the case, but he told my dad straight up, it's haunted. We want to get out of here. We're just dumping it. We already have a new property we want. Come to later find out the two previous families also sold the house because they believed it to be haunted. Again, I'm still, even though my dad has found the spirituality, I'm not a believer. I'm like haunted,
it hasn't happened to
schmonted,
you yet,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it just still sounds like cornball shit to me.
You're Brian
you know
Callen at that point.
what I mean? right. I'm just like,
You're a young Brian Callen.
Yeah, so, it was, long story short, my parents got in the worst argument I had ever seen them get in over that home. Mom was not hearing no. Like, that wasn't happening. Like, this is the house. We're getting it. It was nasty. It was a nasty fight. And it got physical with her towards him. It was bad. And, next thing I know, I was staying with my aunt at that time. And the next thing I know, we're moving into this fucking place.
You never moved in?
No, we did.
Oh, you did?
Next thing I know, we're moving
wow.
into it.
You're in Persia, Iowa.
I'm in Persia, Iowa, dude. And this is moving from like a suburb of Houston. So there's 330 people in the town, right? My school class had 400 kids where I was from. So there was more, this was culture shock.
So your mom, your dad, you and your brother move into this haunted house.
How old are you?
I'm 12
Okay.
at the time.
Chad, can you bring that mic in a little closer to you?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm 12 years old at the time. And my family's very open. Like, my parents, I was fully able to swear around my parents, or like, there's no family secrets. My mom had the sex talk with me very young, like just very open family, you know what I mean? So it would be very bizarre to see anybody whispering or keeping secrets or leaving the room to talk about something. And the first thing I started noticing is my parents would get up and leave the room. And they'd go have these weird conversations, and they'd come back and they'd just be like awkward. And I'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? And this started happening a lot, to the point where I finally cornered my dad, and I'm just like, is someone like got cancer or something? Like, what's going on? Is someone dying? Like, why are you guys leaving the room to have conversations? And my dad is like, I don't know how to say this to you, and I'm like, what? And he's like, weird things are going on around the house. Weird things are going on around the house. What does that mean? It's like, things are moving that shouldn't move. I've seen things. I've woken up, and he described some black figure hovering above him as he woke up, which I was like, well, Dad, you just went through a lot of trauma. Maybe this is like, I'm looking for, psychological thing. Maybe it's night terrors. Maybe
it's not a black guy.
Right. And he's like,
Hey, there are no black guys per.
Well, no, he said black.
All right, man, you have to bring the race card.
So, to be clear, not African American, black figure. So my mother at that time, I finally, talked to her, and she's telling me crazy stories that, like, she is flying around the house, like things are taking off and breaking. I've not seen it.
You and your brother haven't seen anything.
Nothing. Okay, so I'm confiding in my brother, and I'm going, I think Dad's accident.
A little crazy.
Dad's going crazy.
Crazy simultaneously.
And Mom's on board
been
too.
Right, Mom's been through a lot. He's been through shock. My brother's like, yeah, no, I agree. So my dad, we had a pool table room, and my parents are both telling us this big event where things were flying and something now broke, and my mom had a cut on her eye, and they said something flew off a shelf and hit her in the face, and I'm not buying it. I'm not. And my mom's become more vocal about it. And then it gets to the point where things are constantly happening around her, to the point where I believe she was faking it. I believed she's crazy. She's lost it. She's faking shit.
Sure.
Now she wants people to believe her, so she's trying stuff, which I've learned later on in life actually happens a lot in cases where real stuff does happen, and people are telling people and they think they're crazy, so they're trying to not be crazy, right?
Yeah.
So they'll try to get this. So this does happen later on. So my brother and I are actually talking about this, and we played pool. My dad had a pool table. My dad was very good, an amateur pro actually when he was younger at pool. My brother was very good, and I was never very good. But, pool cues, they have white cue ball, and then there's a really small black circle on the cue ball, right? So my brother is talking to me, and leans down, and he's basically talking about how this is all bullshit. And right before he goes back to stroke the cue ball, and I'm not looking directly at it, okay? But it's in my periphery. And I see it move. And I see Brian just stop halfway in his stroke. And I look down, and the cue ball is like a good 8 inches. And I watched it move. But the thing is, it didn't roll because the circle that's on it was in the same spot. I watched it. Yeah. So I stopped back, and I said to Brian, I go, what did you just see? And Brian's like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, dude, you were looking straight the fuck at it. I wasn't. Right? It was in my periphery. It was here. You know what I mean? Like if I'm sitting like this and I could see it. But I'm like, you had your eye on it. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going, wow, mom ain't around right now. What is going on? So this continued to get worse and worse and worse until my brother is now acting very, very weird. To make a long story short, I come talk to him, and he's saying things are happening in my room at night. And I'm like, what? My brother's a guitar player. And he's saying, my guitar's playing. I'm like, huh? And he's like, I am sleeping, and my acoustic guitar is sitting on a rack, and it's strumming. I'm like, you're kidding me, Because now I'm going, so 3 of them are going crazy? Everyone in my house is going crazy? So I'm hearing all of this, and again, I could tell you a million stories like this, but to get to where we're going, my parents and my brother one day go to this town, Harlan. It's about 20 miles away, and they get groceries. And I'm alone in the house, and I'm sick to death at this because I think my family's going crazy, which is a horrible feeling. Like, try to really think about what that must be like, as a child to be going, they're losing their mind. So I walked around this house. I was like, all right, I'm game. I'll do it. I walked around. I was like, whatever the fuck is here, do whatever you want to me. I'm wide open. Hit me with everything you got. I don't believe any of this bullshit. You can do, and what you learn, this is provoking, right? So, and this went on for a good hour. I walked every room, and I was like, where are you? Where are you? I'm right here. You know what I mean? My scares, I'm right here. So nothing occurs. And there's a I made a documentary later about this called American Ghost Hunter, and I tell this story in a much longer delivery that I'm going to right now for time's sake. But essentially, that night, I'm laying in my bedroom. Right as I'm about ready to fall asleep, I'm leaning back, and I have a headboard just behind me, and there's a wall. If you hauled off as hard as you could and hit the damn wall behind my head, that's what it sounded like. I shot up straight out of the bed like, holy fuck, what in the hell just happened? So my brother, outside my door, my brother's door is right next to me. So I go over to his room, like, dude, Scooter, I'm in bed with you, dog. Like, this is going down. You know what I mean? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you didn't hear this?
Because you bunk up with your brother or any other.
Right? He's like, I didn't hear anything. I'm like, it's impossible
that you didn't hear it.
That you didn't hear this. Yeah. He's like, no. So I hop in his bed, and he's like, all right, just chill. I've kind of found that if you don't think about it, don't talk about it, it'll go away. Right as we're going to sleep. And dude, I would take, oh my God. It was a scary, I can remember this to like, all 4 walls started beating.
Beating?
Simultaneously. It's only beating, like if you hit it. Like if you hauled off and hit it. Boom, 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 boom.
Beating, yeah.
Beating. my bro's climbing over me to get through the door, off his bed. And we're going down.
You want to get the fuck out of the beating room.
And we're going down the stairway. And our stairway was only one landing. But when I think back about it, that stairway seems so long. Because as we were going down it, the beating was alternating on the stairwell. And it just seemed so long. I just wanted off that fucking thing.
You guys run outside?
I got to the bottom. I started screaming for my parents, and I hear my dad loudly reading scripture. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Beating walls and the Bible being read.
So I run in their room, and I often get asked this question: what is the scariest thing you've ever seen in all your 25 years of doing
our
this?
fan questions were a few of those.
And I've seen things levitate. I've seen things move that shouldn't. I've seen apportation. I've seen
we'll get to that.
All kinds of really crazy. I'm going to show you guys some stuff that, especially you, that will blow your mind.
I'm ready, baby.
The scariest thing I've ever seen happened then. And I still don't even like telling the story, so I'm not going to spend that much time on it. But imagine just looking at your mother. And it's not her.
Who was it?
She was speaking Aramaic.
It's an ancient
She was
language.
speaking the oldest
Almost like Arabic.
spoken version of Latin.
It's the
My
Bible is
mother-
written in Aramaic and Greek.
My mother had my brother when she was 14. She dropped out of school at 13, which is to say she's not an educated woman.
Yeah, she's sure as hell not speaking
Right,
that language.
No. She's a tough woman. She's not an educated woman, though. And I'm staring at her as she's staring at me. And she starts moving around, and her hair is being pulled, and she's screaming in pain in between speaking this. And I have a photo that I'll show you of this and how I got the photo.
I was going to say, you took a picture?
Yeah. And how I got the photo is at that time, my dad was trying to get help. There's no one to help. Who do you call?
No one's going to believe you, yeah.
No one believes it. Even if they do, who do you call?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Ghostbusters.
he had heard of the Warrens and the Catholic Church. Those are
Yeah,
the two
Catholic
options.
Church, right? Or
Two
you can call the
options.
Warrens.
Or the Warrens.
You don't know the Warrens. Yeah. What are you saying about the Warrens?
Yeah.
Isn't that what the Conjuring
Well,
is
the
about?
Warrens.
Correct.
Yeah,
Conjuring
yeah,
1
yeah.
and 2, Amityville Horror.
Hey, you're an expert, dude.
Yeah, that's a real woman. Yeah, no,
they're real people.
well,
We'll get to them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're in
All
the
right.
story.
Yeah.
I have to ask the question.
Shut
though.
your
You don't know that
fucking
she was
mouth.
speaking Aramaic because you don't speak Aramaic. So
The only reason I knew
know it's not English.
No, the only reason I knew is there. I can't remember the sentence now, but there were words that she was saying over and over again.
Oh.
And I remembered them. And I remember literally like going to a library. There was no web back then. Going to a library and saying like, what was this? What is this word? What is this word?
So how long did your mother do that for?
That night for about 40 minutes. That's about all it was. But it continued out. So during this, at one point, she stopped, looked at me, and not in Aramaic, in perfect English, in a voice that did not sound like hers, and just said, "I'm going to get you, boy," and lunged for me. In which my father grabbed her, pulled her back down.
I had to punch him.
But the reason I had a photo of this is because at that time, my parents knew that their only two options were going to be the New England Scythe Paranormal, the Warrens.
The Warrens.
Or the church. Either way, Warrens ain't coming
Unless you show them proof.
and you're not getting anybody in the Catholic
proof.
Church out that's an actual exorcist without a ton of proof.
Yes.
So remember those old Kodak disposable yellow little cameras?
Hells yeah.
It was nothing to have like 50 of those be all over our house because you didn't know when. You didn't know when it was going to happen. So have one close by. And this was not cell phone days with video, right? Video back then was hunky, shoulder.
You know
So
we got
there
time
was
for
no,
that.
the only thing you can do is that. So I took a photo of this, and you could clearly see in this photo, not the pain she's in, but you can see her hair being jerked, pulled up and completely away from her body in a way that it couldn't be otherwise, which I'll show this to you guys as well.
Will we be able to bring it on screen so the viewers see it, or is it just for our
I can show some of that stuff. The only thing I can't show you guys on screen here today is the Sir No Face footage because that film's coming out. So I'll.
But you
play
show
that
us.
for
So
you.
let me because in the interest of time, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
get to some bigger questions.
Yeah.
Because this is a story you're telling me. You were introduced to ghosts at 12 years old through
Okay,
your
yeah.
mother and through this haunting.
Yep.
Okay, you bring the Warrens in. The Warrens do an investigation.
Whoa. Hey,
Yeah, this is
you're
where it
watching
gets
way
kind
too
of
much
weird.
Conjuring.
Sorry, man. I
Yeah,
don't
this
know.
is where it gets kind of weird.
okay.
So
Hey, man.
my mother somehow.
Dear you.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
I don't want to say how, because I'm not completely sure how she did it, but she contacted somehow their organization, and we got word that the Warrens were sending 3 of their investigators,
Deputies.
Yeah. I sent you guys a link. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or not, but basically these guys spent 2 weeks and pretty much sent the Warrens a letter that said it is a devil strength diabolical manifestation.
Confirming
what you guys thought,
confirming everything. We've seen levitations. We've seen, this happening, chairs being thrown. Like, we urge the Warrens to come now, We never heard back from the Warrens.
Warrens ain't got time for that.
And the crazy thing
Not going to
was,
Persia.
these guys they provoked the hell out of everything and then left. And it was the darkest time of that haunting because shit went crazy and then nobody's picking up the phone. Well, through serendipity, 20 years later, the young 12-year-old boy that you're looking at now went on to have a complete fascination with this, trying to understand it, and it winds up on a show called Paranormal State. And guess who their psychic is?
One of the
Lorraine
Warrens.
Warren. Wow. So we're going to have words because my family was left in the cold. And it was very awkward because on the show, I was a professional, so I had to keep a professional environment. And she was walking around me a good 6-7 episodes and had no clue who I was. And I was like, I know who you are.
Did you finally drop the bomb? When you guys wrapped, you're like, hey,
Yes,
let me talk
when
to
we
you for a
shot the
second.
American Ghost Hunter
Hey, bitch.
documentary, I made a documentary going back. The American Ghost Hunter documentary was going to be trying to unravel my old story of my house and what went
And that
on.
house is still there?
Right, house is still there. When I went back, unbeknownst to me, for 20 years since I had left and went on to college, this had continued on in my parents' home. It followed them.
So your parents just stuck it out. We're like, yeah, we're cool.
They just
The
didn't
dark
want to tell
energy
me.
followed them, you mean?
Yes.
I thought they were saying they stayed at
So
the...
dark
No,
energy.
they gave up the home to the bank.
It
They couldn't
attaches
sell the home.
to
Yes,
the
it attached to
vehicle.
her.
I see.
My mother was the vessel, correct.
Yes.
She was the vessel.
So kill your
Vessel.
mom. No.
So years later, so I finally, dropped the bomb on Lorraine, and I'm just like, listen, I ain't your fucking fan. I want answers. You know what I mean?
I'm going to punch you square in the face.
I'm not going
Ghost
to
style,
hurt her, but I'm
bitch.
just like, I'm not your fan. Because she's huge in the ghost hunting world, right? You know what I mean? And it's
She's like Joe Montana.
She's had a couple
is.
movies
She
made out
is.
of her.
Fucking
She
right.
is.
Didn't they get? They got exposed though at the Amityville
whoa.
horror thing.
You know, they did-
They
the
got
thing is, they
exposed
did-
as being it was a big hoax.
Well, she didn't get exposed. What she was saying, and I've talked to her about Amityville, and what she said is that the house was, in fact, extremely haunted. But the problem is, everybody was jumping for money on that. Hollywood was, the local
Sure.
media was trying to make
was a
names
book.
out
I
of
read the
themselves.
book.
It gets exaggerated.
So
of
right,
course.
so
Hollywood.
she had a hard time at determining what was real, what was said.
That's like
what
saying
wasn't.
Save It Private Ryan.
But Chad,
Yeah.
when we talk about haunted, now
Mm-hmm.
let's explain for a second because your mother could very easily have been having a psychic episode. And the problem I have with all
Mm-hmm.
of this is that back in the day, before the scientific method, which I'm a believer in, I'm sure you are to an
Mm-hmm.
extent, the before we could find out, like you could measure things, I don't know, like schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we can measure it is because we have drugs to treat it. But schizophrenics, old women that owned cats, old women that spoke to themselves because they were lonely, those women were burned at the stake
Mm-hmm.
because they were possessed or they were demons or they were ghosts inside.
Or
so
witches.
this kind of,
They call them witches,
that's
brother.
right. They would weigh them, see if they floated or,
or
not.
a warlock.
Or a warlock.
I
And
don't know your ghost history.
so my issue
Evan got
with
possessed.
with a lack of scientific thinking. So in other words, when I talk about scientific thinking, I mean not only measurable data, but data and measurable data that can be replicated with independent studies. So independent lines of inquiry that come to the same conclusion. So this kind of thinking, you're possessed, for example, is back in the day and still in places like Indonesia, parts of rural Indonesia and stuff. Women, especially, were burned at the stake and tortured and purified and all that stuff because they were thought to be
man.
Demon childs.
God,
but just so you know,
didn't get this
when you say this kind of thinking, you're jumping to a conclusion I haven't told you.
That's why I'm bringing this up.
No,
I want you to answer this because what I'm saying is that when before we could measure things like schizophrenia, we said that person's possessed and something would happen. They'd do something, either you'd be burned at the stake or you'd be purified.
But that doesn't mean you can't lump all of it in there.
But this kind of thinking without proof or measurable data.
Then there's no religion.
Let me tell you, because
there's no religion then. Because you got to have, there's faith, right? Like there's no proof of Jesus Christ.
And people were burned at the stakes. You're right, for being heretics, right?
Yes.
For being
Same
against
thing.
God.
Same
Well,
thing.
this is why I love this kind of conversation.
But this is where
a very good point.
This is where
Very good point.
I started in the the American Ghost Hunter documentary. What you see my struggle the whole time is I'm trying to make the discernment. Is this mental illness,
Right,
or is this paranormal? Which either way, whether it's spiritual help or medical, let's get both, right? Because let's just it's mom, right? So mom's sick, so we got to help mom.
Both, I'm sure.
Right.
Some of them might be paranormal. Some people are batshit crazy.
But here's where it started crossing over to me.
Yeah.
Remove my mother from the equation.
Take the mama out of it.
Now dad's experienced stuff. Now brother is.
Right.
My current wife, who's a school teacher in Malibu, who I started dating when I was 14 years old, Roman Catholic, told her about all this. She's like, Chad, I want to believe you. I don't.
right.
I think maybe you are all a little crazy.
Maybe the whole family's batshit crazy.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So Laura's hanging out with me. We're 15 years old. Again, my parents are gone doing something. We're home alone. And just to tell you how much my mind wasn't on the ghosts, we're alone, and it's the first time kids do what they do.
Damn, okay.
It's go time.
It's go time.
Go time for Chad.
Right before.
And that is not a ghost in your pants, girl.
Right before I look at Laura's face and I feel it. I'm like, fuck. I look over my shoulder. A large, probably 8.5, 9 foot figure is standing in the doorway. And we see it for not like 5 seconds, maybe a second or two. And it moves, and we actually track it through the living room, through the window, and out the door. And I look back at her. I mean, she is pale. And she's looking at me. She's like, get me the fuck out of here.
Real cock block.
now.
That was
I mean,
an 8-foot shack.
8 foot
Jack.
cock blocker. Hey, ghost.
Hey, bro.
Is there any other time you could do this?
Right. You gotta be like, boo.
Yeah, all right,
with your
man.
giant figure.
So I literally...
Explain that, Brian.
I'm carrying her out. She's freaking. She's afraid to walk. She's afraid to do it. She just saw this. And I'm like, before we go out, what did you see? Because I had to know she saw what I saw. We leave. We get out, and she's like, I'm done. I'm never coming back. I know what I saw. I'm never coming back. So it's not like, Brian, we were sitting around telling ghost stories and being spooked out and letting our mind get to us.
Sure.
Okay, this event occurred. I could go down the list of people, the town mayor, EMTs, police officers, the amount of people that experience firsthand activity in this home.
But the
plus the two previous families.
Now I'm a believer, brother. I'm on your side on this. The skeptic's going to say, "Where's the proof?"
Like me.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
watch
guys
the
like
documentary and watch the stuff I'm going to show you guys as well too. But I can tell you another
Yeah, fucking
crazy
watch it,
story that
Brian.
tied it together to me. My investigation partner today, which is a skeptic to the degree you are. And let me point this out too. Most of us
Well, the reason I'm a
investigators,
skeptic-
I would say
Chad
I'm a
is-
skeptic. You want to know why this is why I do this, because I can't wrap my mind around it. I gotta find an answer, even though it doesn't exist.
So when you go into a haunted place, do you provoke the demon?
You can't do that, bro.
Demon's such a messed up word. I'll provoke and I'll do whatever I got to do to see if a place is haunted.
Like, what do you do?
The term demon is a Catholic term. It comes from a government.
It's a Hollywood
forget
term,
demon,
really.
right?
What do you think ghosts are trying
a
to
Hollywood
do?
Forget
term,
demon.
right.
Do you believe that there's good in the world? You believe that there is good in the world.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe in good and evil.
Okay.
Well,
evil. Call it demon, an intelligent manifestation of evils. Evil that has a purpose and a cause. When you hear about these horrific acts that like people do and they're consumed, and we got a million times throughout history, from the Holocaust, where these people, then you take them out of that environment and they're like perfectly normal the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It's like, what consumed you at that moment?
Right.
That's a demon. We're just Hollywood. You said it. Hollywood put that face on it.
The different natures of
turned it
human
in.
beings, right? We have the
Right.
beast. We have this. We have the higher calling. We have the higher. They always say, what was it? Lincoln said, the better angels of our nature. You have the better angels, and you have the I guess the lower angels of your nature.
Because sometimes, like, whether you believe it or not, like if you're gonna believe in good, there's gonna be an alternative.
Absolutely,
to that.
man.
You know what I'm saying?
For the record-
So like if you go into a place that's haunted, if it's haunted, and obviously it's a Hollywood term. If it's possessed, if there's a demon, that means there's a dark soul. So you could go into a place where there's positive, right?
99% of hauntings are not negative. It's all good stuff. Like it's the same.
They're just living there with you.
I'd love
it's the same as the world, right? In the world, every so many people is going to be an asshole, right? And they're going to fuck with you, right?
But in general, they're good.
Right. But in general, that's how it's going to be. It's the same thing. It's like, I can't tell you how many cases that we've been called in, and the people didn't want us to get rid of it. They'd just been like, I just want to confirm this is really going on. Can you see if you can capture something? And we would. And they'd be like, well, if you want to remove it, there are people who help. No.
What
I'm
do you
good.
capture it on? What
Film.
instruments?
Well, with me, like when you went on the Ghost
I went on
Adventures
Ghost.
show,
Some would say.
all the gadgety
Some would say
gadgets.
I'm a ghost expert. I was on Ghost Adventures with Zach Baggins.
Zach Baggins.
Yeah.
Now, what do you? Because Zach got on our show and he was like, he was just on the phone, but
A while ago.
and he was
I mean,
like,
this
I
is
said, "How you
4
doing?" He
years
goes,
ago.
man, it's tough. I was with my girlfriend and she got in a full-fledged tug of war with a ghost. The thing was pulling her purse and she was pulling her purse the other way. And this guy was going through these stories. I was like, bro, this guy's out of his mind.
So when I went on, so Zach is a buddy, and we met at where The Shining's was filmed in
at the Stanley.
Stanley. We met at the Stanley. He was doing function there. I was there. And he's like, dude, you got to come on the show. I'm like, yeah, I'd love that. And I believe in ghosts. So I was terrified. And that night I was supposed to stay at the Stanley, but I was so scared I drove home in the snow. It took me like 3 hours to get home.
Yeah.
And then like a couple months go by and he was texting me like, dude, when you coming on? I'm like, oh, just let me know. Like, we'll figure it out. And then he texts me and goes, hey, what are you doing right now? And I was asleep. It was like 11 o'clock at night. He goes, we're doing something at the Peabody Mansion in Denver. And growing up in Denver, everyone knows the Peabody Mansion. Like, it's haunted as fuck. And so he goes, we're doing the Peabody Mansion. Come down here. So I call my brother. I'm like, you're coming with me. You know, Jay, Shark Eyes, doll smile. He's like, all right.
He's a soldier.
So my brother comes with me, and you know, like I don't.
He's not a believer, right? He's a skeptic.
No, not at all.
He's like me.
So hold on, though. Jay's a skeptic as a motherfucker.
Right.
We drive there, and they go, all right, your brother can't come in. That's not the way the show works. Like, he can come in after, but during the investigation, just you and the guys. I'm like, all right. And I told Jay, I'm like, hey, look for any kind of bullshit. Like, if they're talking to each other, like walkie-talkies or whatever. Yeah. He's like, all right, will do. So I'm in the house for like 2 hours. I was so scared.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I really didn't hear anything, see anything. It was all dark. But if you shut the lights off in here and made me stay here at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd probably be scared.
There's an
so like if all of us are sharing like scary stories, it kind of heightens your sense.
I love
now.
But for the
now
record,
take this.
Yeah.
Now you're in a mansion, Peabody Mansion. A girl. That's a fact. That's no ghost. A girl's actually murdered, raped, and buried there. That's like Denver. Like everyone knows that. And she was buried in the basement.
Scary.
So I'm sitting where she was married in this. There's dirt on the ground. I'm sitting there, and I can, your mind starts playing tricks on you. And I was like, get me the fuck out. If there weren't cameras, I would have ran so fast. So Jay was a skeptic, and then I brought him in. And I was like, hey, let's go downstairs. So this girl got married, and he's like, fuck that. He was
because even children, my children, every child, they don't like the dark because the dark. There's an evolutionary danger to the dark.
Of course,
right? You don't know what's around you.
Absolutely.
It's
they say that's a dark lake. They say that's a caveman tendency because at night that's when animals would attack you. So by human nature, you're supposed to be scared of the dark. When I say this, I can't emphasize this enough. Even at night, if I go downstairs to get a snack, I run up the stairs still to this day.
Or how
every time.
How about that tingly feeling when you're leaving a room? So this you'll like this because my wife wanted. We got this big strange container. We have this designer, and he came to our house, and he brought a giant, strange green container.
But it was like vintage, right?
Yeah.
It was like old, it's like an antique.
I said, what is that thing? Because I got an uneasy feeling about it. It was this big container with a sort of a hole in the middle of it, with a sort of a door that you could unscrew.
Right.
And I went, what is that? He goes, I don't know, but it came off a haunted ocean liner on that used to circle Lake Erie. And I'll tell you this, my wife did not like that thing near the house, and I'll give you this. I used to scare the shit out of her, but I will say I did hear weird noises coming from that room, like a baby crying. And I will say this.
I got to point this out.
Every time I would go in there and I would leave the room, I'd get a tingly thing on my ears and the back of my neck. Like I'd get this thing because I was always, and then one day I made myself put my head, it was dark, and I put my head in the container.
You're provoking it. It doesn't work like that.
And I sat there and waited for it.
Doesn't work like that.
And either way, my wife insisted we get that thing the fuck out.
But Chad, let me ask you this.
I will admit, it was a little scary.
Well, first off, you just did what every skeptic I've ever met in my life does. They go, man, this stuff is total bullshit.
And then it tells a story.
But there was this one time.
Yeah. It's true.
I hear that everywhere.
But Chad, like on Ghost Adventures, and like you even said, there's this kind of trend where there all these, especially probably 3 years ago, is at its height. And it's even big now in scary movies. Scary movie comes out, I'm there Thursday night, opening night. Every single scary movie, I can't get enough. I'm balls deep in that stuff. But like those ghost shows, like is Ghost Adventures, like when I went on there, people made fun of me on our show. People made fun of me.
They're
oxymoronic. I'll see people make fun of you, but is the Ghost Adventures stuff, is that real? Like the TV stuff?
Look, first off, if you're going to be in this field, like get it fixed again, you're going to get made fun of. It is spoofable. If you don't think it isn't, you're kidding yourself, right? Yeah, sure. I'm not that serious of a dude, like where I can't laugh at my own shit. Right, you know what I mean? But like, you have to understand, like, and I was a part of, I was the co-star and a director of Paranormal State, which is the second highest rated show for like 6 seasons on A&E. Okay. So I got to be a part of it and from behind the camera working, and people for each show, it really depends on what their focus and their goal is. Our show was family-oriented, meaning like families would bring us in to try to help solve their issues. And then, to be honest, it ended up kind of being like, paranormal therapy. Like that's how kind of each episode ended. But the shows that are evidence-based, like Zach's show,
Ghost Adventures?
Yes, or TAPS, right? Or Ghost Hunters, right? Or those shows that are just about, do you find the evidence? First off, 99% of the time, nothing happens.
There's no evidence.
You go ghost hunting, nothing happens.
And you got to make a show, so it's almost like scripted reality, you're saying?
They are selling commercials, brother. So whether shit's going down or not, it's going down.
Of course.
Per episode. They will find. Now, that doesn't mean, look, there are many shows that are flat, cold, straight up faking stuff. Because I've never been on an episode to look and see, Zach. I'm not that type of dude, right? Like I'm not going to say you did.
The device did say my name.
But I'll tell you this. The device you use is called Frank's Box. It was made by a guy named Frank Sumption, okay? All that's going on, it's called matrixing. It's an AM scanner. Like those old car radios that have AM. If you just went like this 1,000 times like in a second, like that's what a Frank's Box is doing. So it's all these AM channels you're hearing, let's go. And you are matrixing. The job of your mind is to make sense of shit.
Exactly.
But why would everyone hear Brendan?
Because everyone knows you. They recognize you. So when something comes out that even remotely sounds like that.
Everyone heard the box say Brendan.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it did.
Played with the audio.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the box, and I wasn't there to see it. Somebody on the AM channel could have said Brendan, but more than likely something similar sounding to your name came across, and because you're the guest, you're the focus, you're the guy. There's been tons of studies about this.
Of course.
With major
suggestion.
Right. Like someone goes, it said Brendan. Instantly everybody goes, I heard Brendan too.
Yes.
I mean, everyone heard Brendan.
And in their mind they did. Right. And it sounds that way because your mind is telling you that's what it is.
You suggest.
It's matrixing. It happens. It's called pareidolia when you do it visually. Sure. It happens all the time. And that's the stuff that makes this field really hard when you say measurable evidence. That's the stuff that makes it hard because people are introducing things like a Frank's Box. It's like, guys, these are or the a lot of these shows use these little. The reason these shows like Ghost Adventures or Taps use these, I call it the electrician's belt, like every like an EMF meter and all this stuff like that, is because right now in this room or anywhere you're going to walk today, there's EMF flying everywhere. Right. And if you sit around and ask enough random questions, at some point you're going to go, "Are you in here?" And something's going to go bleep, and then the producers and the editors go, "Fuck yeah, we got evidence."
So what do you
do?
do?
Don't.
I like
you
this.
know what I mean?
He's
You
debunking
don't.
a lot of this stuff.
So what do you do if you want to find an actual
film it? Spend time and film it. That's the closest we can get, right? Because when you have something filmed, you can now visually recreate that room. You can go back and see what that setting is. You could literally figure out dimensions, where people were. It's still the hardest medium to debunk is when you film it. So over the years,
it can take forever.
People used to always ask me, "Chad, I gave you this EMF meter. I gave this Frank's box. Why aren't you using it?" I'm like, "What does a beeping meter prove?"
Yeah.
It doesn't prove anything.
I want to see something.
That's the closest we got is visuals. Now there are some audio things that are amazing. I'll show you. I'll play some audio later that makes no sense. That came from this hospital area, this place Waverly Hills, and we know for a fact nothing was there. There were 2 wave recorders by. One did not pick up the sound. The other did. 8 feet across. It's just moaning and screaming from this area where this specific operation was known to take place. And things like that are cool. They're suggestive. But like I got into this for proof. I got into this to say this went down.
And you found proof.
Yes.
Boom.
First time in 25 years. When we just talked about the power of suggestion and psychokinetic ability, which is allegedly the mind supposedly can create physical things, right? Can move things, stuff like that. I did a documentary that kind of put that to the test. And it actually the results kind of skewed towards the fact that maybe our minds are actually, it's kind of like The Secret, right? Put it out there in the world, things come back to you, right? Like positivity creates positivity. So I made this documentary about this, and it did really well. It's called A Blood Red Sky. To my fans who listen, it's going to be out in about 6 months worldwide, just so everybody knows. So I'm super stoked about it. We got tons of distributors on it to follow up American Ghost Hunter. But the only reason I bring that is because while I was on tour in Australia, we had started getting a fan base in Australia. I was like, let's go over there and see if we can maybe do a show there. We landed, dude. 6 sold out shows.
Damn.
First time I had ever stepped foot on Australian
People
show.
love this stuff.
You're doing live shows, you're doing theaters, you're doing speaking engagements.
No, people love this.
And I'm doing it all myself, bro. Like, I've been doing I'm just now to the point where my manager's like, you know what? You can't do this anymore. It's too much for you. So now it's agent time. But but I wanted to build it me. Like,
great.
And I also wanted to demonstrate, and you've given great advice about that before, where people ask about, how do I get an agent?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Like
do your thing.
Then,
when you can't do it anymore, they'll be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we just that's a whole other thing.
I hope
I
hope you're making dope ghost shirts.
People love to believe, regardless, and that's why psychics make a lot of money. Now,
don't even get me started on psychics.
How dare you?
Psychics.
Because so many of them, and that's what I wanted to ask you. Because
psychics don't like me in this field. They don't like me because I call them guessers.
Right.
They hate me because I've seen it on the episodes and
what about like Long Island Medium?
Listen, I'm telling you, this is what they do.
Fraud.
They bring them. They're not.
Hey, bro.
They're not frauding.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
Come on, man.
I love that lady.
Come on.
They're not frauding in this sense, and I could speak about the ones that I've seen. If I take you into a building and for 3 hours have you guess, you are going to hit some shit out of the park.
Exactly.
Maybe 4 or 5 things is all you need for an episode.
I love that you call them guessers. I love that.
That's what I used to call them. They don't let this field, like, psychics hate
Of
me.
course, because
I don't work with them.
Same belief structure.
Like, my team won't work with them because I'm like, how can you use an unproven to try to legitimize an unproven? Anyways, I want to get back to the Sir No Face footage, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm over on tour, my first ever tour in Australia. Life's amazing. I'm like, God, this is awesome. And I meet this dude. He like buys a VIP ticket, comes, backstage and everything. Nicest guy I've ever met. Super cool dude. Doesn't like hit me up about anything. He's just a cool guy. He's got his own team. They're all like outfitted. They look like the SWAT team, dude. Like they're living it. Like they're proud. Like we're ghost
Some legit
hunters.
Ghostbusters, yeah.
These guys are into it. So that on that whole tour, the one thing fans kept saying to me is, I want to do a ghost hunt with you. Like, you didn't do a ghost hunt this time. You just showed your movie. We want to hunt with you. And we've done that before. We'll do like, okay, cool. We'll get a cool location. So I was going to go back over. I called up this guy, Craig Powell, and I said, hey, I want to come back again. Can we, do you know what I mean? You're local. You know what I mean? Local places we can do. He says, sure. I got an amazing place for you on this island called Cockatoo Island. It's right in Sydney Harbor, right off the coast of Sydney.
Did you say cockatoo?
Cockatoo Island.
It's a bird. It's a cockatoo is a white bird.
Yeah, it's a bird.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, he said it's a formal naval base is what it is. And he says...
And it's a naval base.
Yeah, so, and it's a former prison. It's also a former child's reformatory school out there. But anyway, so I say to him, well, listen, dude, I don't want to just like use you. I want to return the favor here. You hooked us up. You're having a team. So at our events, sometimes I'll do paranormal evidence presentations, right? Just cool stuff. Like I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit. And I said, you and your team can do 1, 2, right? So you can put your name on the flyer. You know what I mean? They're local. Help them out. You know what I mean? Just
like an opener for you.
Right.
Opening
Bands do it all the time, right? You hook them up.
Comics do it.
Right.
Open up for you.
Totally. So he says, cool. So we show up there and, I do my presentation, goes over well, and he's getting ready to do his. And he starts describing something that he's fixing to show. And he was like, yeah, we were out here and there was this ghost. And it identified itself by the name Sir. And on call, in a building without electricity, none, grounded, like nothing, it could light up a room like a lightning bolt would hit, to the degree that it was so bright that no shadows would be cast. You could have 10 people in the room, there'd be no shadows off anything, and be that bright. They could do it on call.
Yeah, man.
And he was like, yeah, we brought the government back. We brought 24 people to experience. And I'm going, sure. He shows me the footage, and I'm going, huh. Either it's real, or you're a lying motherfucker. Like, this is some stage hoax stuff. Sure. Because I've experienced this light phenomenon once before in a schoolhouse in Iowa, I'm intrigued, because I've experienced this where the room just lights up, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? So the next thing he says, I'm a smoker, so I'm gonna go outside and have a cigarette, and I'm kind of talking with my friends, and I hear him say, in this next piece of footage, we captured a full body apparition that looks directly at the camera.
This guy's killing the game.
And which, I kind of stopped, and when I first heard it, to be honest, I was pissed. I'm going, I misjudged this dude. Oh my God, this guy's a scamming motherfucker.
Yeah.
I turn back around and see his footage, and I am just like, whoa.
What do you do with this footage?
I knew when I saw it, it was something different. I mean, this thing...
But where is it? Where can I see it?
You're going to see it.
Oh, you have it? Is that what we're going to play?
We're going to get this shit
I will play it for you guys. I can't put it on here yet because the film is out.
Gotcha.
But I see it, and I'm like... In my 25 years of doing this, I've only seen what I would say a ghost twice. This thing looked and moved exactly like what I've seen. And the nature of the footage, I was just like, whoa, because this thing comes around the corner, looks right at the camera, and moves back. And you see its whole torso, its arm, like everything. And I said to him, after we left, to make a very longer story short, I said to him, is this real? He's like, yes. And I'm like, no, look at me. I'm not fucking with you. You know what I mean? Is this real? And he's like, yes. I'm like, I would like to make a documentary about this. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, is it real? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, you understand, I put food on the table with my films. That's how I live. So I can't put something out there unless it's not. And he's like, it's real. And I go, okay, I want to make the documentary about me trying to prove you're lying. He's like, okay. I'm like, okay? You're okay with that? Yes.
I hope you see
I'm
this
like,
footage,
okay.
Callan, and
I go, okay.
I'm a little more
So this
believer.
entire documentary is about me trying to blow holes in this cat, to the point that not only through testimony, footage, recreation footage, can I prove no human being could have possibly done it, because this thing steps out of a wall, by the way.
Well, I've seen
Explain
that in
that, Brian.
movies.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that too.
Yeah, well, you
I went
played
back.
with shit,
I
man.
went back. No, hold on. I was fortunate enough years ago to ghost hunt for a gentleman that you might have heard of named Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
And we actually worked with the military
Never heard of
to
him.
actually work on some sign. There's a big name drop,
I'm just
right?
kidding.
Didn't mean that, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
through my relationships and friendships back then, I met a gentleman named Danny Patterson. Danny Patterson is one of the top CGI experts in the world. He did the CGI for the Avengers, Iron Man. He made the
said
first
this is hard to
Transformer.
do.
What's that?
He said it was
He
impossible.
confirmed that it's
I
authentic.
took the footage to him and I just said, listen, I need to know, is there any chance, do what you do with it, whatever it is you do with it, right? Any chance that this thing is CGI? It has been doctored in any way, created, and he comes back and he was just like, this is first generation, man. It's not doctored. This is not CGI.
In your fucking face.
I'm ready.
And this is all in the
Now,
documentary.
Is there one place
Okay.
before,
One that
before we,
comes out.
I want-
Yes or
before
no
we
face,
get into
right.
this, looking at your evidence,
Yeah.
is there a place in the world that you would not go because it's haunted by bad?
Like, is there more
ghosts?
haunted places than others?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well,
ghosts,
in the
more
Blood
ghosts.
Red Sky documentary, the one about the experiments we did about the mental, that was King Edward Longshanks Castle. Okay,
Ooh,
King Edward
Longshanks.
Longshanks,
Mr.
Braveheart.
Wallace.
That is the man real life king who had William Wallace.
Quartered.
Right,
and
quartered.
Tortured.
Chillingham Castle was created solely to not only torture the Scots, but more importantly, to torture the Scottish children.
Jesus.
Okay. The main ghost there that haunts the place is a ghost of a man named John Sage. John Sage is a gentleman that loved what he did so much. Half the medieval torture techniques and devices that we've heard of, he created, and he created them there at Chillingham Castle. One of his favorite things to do was he would take Scottish parents in the courtyard and he went there and he would make them watch them march their children up to his room, in which when he was done raping them, he would chop their body parts up, drop it in oil, light it on fire, and chuck it down at their parents.
Yeah, sounds like a really
So
a
places,
sadist.
right, really sick, disturbing, like special place in hell type of shit, right?
Yeah.
So the place, places that have this type of energy, of course. And I always explain energy to people like it's real simple. You don't got to even believe in the paranormal to understand what residual energy is. You ever been to a cemetery?
Yes.
Does it feel weird?
Yeah.
Got a unique feeling to it?
But is that your mind playing tricks on
Sure
you?
it is.
No, I don't think it is. I think, look, it's the one place everybody goes to do what?
To die.
Right. Feel sad. But you
And
feel
feel
it when you're
sad,
there. You feel it. You know what I mean? You feel that energy. That's all residual energy is. Just things absorb things.
They do
through
say
time.
that if you kill a crocodile in one area and you kill the next crocodile and you kill the next crocodile, the crocodiles around the area that have never even been there will not go back there. And they don't know if it's a scent, but they teach their children not to do that either. So they'll literally clear out an area that way. And the animals, when they see that there's a lot of death there, will stay the fuck away. So
Well, the human
just
mind
don't
is
wanna
so
die.
incredibly powerful.
but even the ones that haven't
Yeah,
been
they're not
around,
haunted, though.
No, but even the ones
Talking
that
about
haven't been
fucking
near
ghosts,
there
Brian.
haven't. So it's obviously haunted by water
That's
crocodiles.
science.
By water, air crocodiles.
But the
point
human
is-
mind, you got to think how strong the mind is. Like, I used to argue, why don't people believe in psychokinetic ability? Because we see it in everyday life.
Please explain.
The placebo effect. What's that?
That's a powerful effect.
Right. Someone thinks they're taking the drug, right?
And it works.
And it works.
Yeah.
True.
It's like, whoa, that's your mind doing
yeah.
that.
Our mind can
On the flip side, adverse health effect, hypochondria. I think I'm sick. I'm sure I have
get
this.
yourself
You start
sick.
having symptoms of that.
True.
In sports, they call it being in the zone.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I played sports. You have those moments where you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me the rock. You know what I mean?
weird.
Like, I got this. That happens all the time. People in life call it the secret sometimes too. When you know an event's going to happen. I remember a time in baseball. The only game my dad ever came to see me play throughout my entire high school career. My last at bat, the last at bat he will ever see me play in high school. After striking out 3 times, I got up to the plate. I'm telling you, I knew before it left his hand what was going to happen. It was a 440-foot home run. I knew it. I felt it. I didn't do it.
Yeah. It's called
it
pattern
just took
recognition.
over. You know, what I mean, it's just
Probably
just,
called-
It's
You've
called
been
the
there 1,000
Ghost of
times.
Babe
You know what I mean?
Ruth, son.
Let's
It
see.
just
I want to see
happens.
some
It's just-
evidence.
Do you have
Let's
video,
go.
Ev, that you can queue up from him?
I have the video that you sent us in the
Oh,
email
no.
yesterday.
No. Get that shit out of here.
Let's set this up.
First, let me show you guys, before I show you the other clips of stuff, let me show you the Cernoface footage. You want to
All
see
right.
that?
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
This is stuff I just got to be able to show you guys so you
Okay.
can see what it is.
So you want to go
yeah,
on break
I should-
so we can see it?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to air this for the
Yeah, I
entire
can't air
puzzle.
this right now.
Yeah, we'll take a little break.
But the other stuff, but I have a folder with all the other stuff that I could show.
While you're
I could
setting
give
up,
to
we'll
you.
just go to the bathroom real quick. Well, Chad just showed us some video from his recent documentary. I turned the lights out, so Special K, everyone.
Keely's
in here.
afraid right now.
I was scared as well. I don't want to give it away in the documentary, but it's you claim it's proof that that there's a ghost, especially on this island in Australia. Correct?
Well, in context, yeah.
And-
If,
yeah.
if everything that's around you prove it, right,
exactly.
right.
And then you showed it to us. Obviously, Brian.
You definitely see
off,
something.
Off air, you and Brian have been disagreeing because Brian goes, "Well, I don't think it's a ghost," and you came up with the brilliant comeback with, "Well, what's a ghost look like, Brian?"
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I didn't even want to go as far as to say that I'm disagreeing. What I'm saying is there's an hour and 40-minute documentary, and I showed you 20
Oh, I'm looking
seconds of
forward to seeing
footage.
it.
I showed you 20 seconds of footage
Right.
that is compelling, and then we started working backwards
Sure.
with your questions, right? You're saying, what about this? Oh, it was this. What about this? Oh, it was this. And then you're like, well, it could be, it could be a person doing this. Of course it could be. My point is, a year of research was done to basically figure out where all these guys are at, to get specialists involved, to get CGI experts involved, to get the ledgers of who was there that night,
To
do
debunk all this,
recreations, because my position was yours in the documentary.
Right.
Truth be told, I initially felt like I was going to catch him. I felt like I would get to a place where someone was going to slip up. I literally separate their team, like in the documentary, like the old, what do you call them? Detectives would do, put people in different rooms.
Yeah. To
I
see-
did it.
match up the
Totally.
stories.
Absolutely.
Well, listen. I mean, obviously they captured something on film, and I
Would you
bet
say you're more of a believer, or you're still skeptical, Hippo?
I would say
you're skeptical,
I would say
Hippo.
I'm definitely not more of a believer, but I
don't
do
think-
appreciate that he captured something, and I like the way.
I don't think
and
there's
without
anything-
giving it away, I like the way you then had another aha moment after that.
Yes.
I don't
which
think there's
was-
anything Chad could have brought in here where you'd walk out and go, "All right, I believe in ghosts."
Probably not.
You're fighting a battle you could not win.
No, but that's that. But
I believe him even more now. And so does Kay.
After seeing
Kay,
it,
are you afraid? Kay,
What did you think
When
of
we went to the bathroom, Kay goes, "I'm afraid."
Yeah, we were all scared. I mean, listen, I am a believer in some of that stuff. I would need to see the whole documentary, but
course.
from what I see, I mean, it's
I'll tell you
it's
this
chilling
much. I'll tell you this
stuff.
much. It got me intrigued about the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this much. I'm definitely going to watch the documentary.
Well, I can't wait for you guys to see it because.
And you have a very good voice for narration.
Yeah, the narration's
like the way he
cool.
narrates it, it's very suspenseful.
Well, what you said and what I love about what I love about us going back and forth about it is when you said, so because of this you believe, and I said no, let's not forget. This investigation started because the Australian government, for the government of all skeptics, right, got these guys involved. And when you look at the series of footage, like there's all kinds of other stuff you're going to see in here too. Like I told you about the lights that go off on call, motion detectors that are going off on call. There's an attack that occurs at one point. So there's a series of footage to go along with the hundreds of claims that are happening on this island. So by the end of the film, what you're left with is either hundreds of people got together and are all collectively hoaxing and lying, including the Australian government, or something is happening.
Something
is
In your face, Brian. Let's go to some current events with Evan, the body to come.
with Chad
I
Calek,
dig it, man. Thanks for bringing that,
paranormal
Chad.
investigator. And the documentary is Blood Red Sky.
Oh, no. This documentary is called Cernoface. We're touring with it right now. We got, I think they're both sold out.
Now, do you find that people really
Australia.
believe in this? Like, when you show them the footage, are they all like sold?
This film has made more believers than any film I've ever taken out.
Yeah.
Our audience is actually pretty split.
And they're not skeptical
skeptics.
about the fact that you can do a lot with film.
Well, that's why we have a CGI expert. That's why we brought a guy in. I mean, because that was me too. That's the obvious thing you'll ask, right? With film, you can manipulate
Sure.
it. So bring in a guy that would know.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. The one thing I would always say about any film, what I hope my films do, my goal is to not necessarily make a believer. My life doesn't change if you believe or you don't. My goal is to inspire somebody to say, I wonder if that's real.
Yeah, they're
like
open to it.
I want to go ghost hunt. I want to go find out for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would love to take you guys ghost hunt
I'd
somewhere in
love
LA.
it.
I would love to take you guys out, dude.
You let us know
Let's
where.
totally do
Just
it.
make sure it's
I
haunted
would
as
love
shit.
to take. I know a place that I could take you, dude.
Dude, that'd be such
Don't
a
set things
Are we
up.
doing this?
Don't you fucking set me
We're
up with
down.
like some
Don't
dude
do
who
that
scares
LA
me.
shady shit on me. Are we doing this?
No. Well, I don't want you setting the stage where all of a sudden
Can I
dudes in
can I
masks and
record
shit.
it though?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
you're gonna
go
record it when you
100%.
put it on our YouTube channel.
100%.
What if I get killed?
100%.
We get so many hits.
Dude, really? All right,
Yeah,
I'll do it for the
if you
show.
died?
If I died?
Yeah.
But then you have to
Let
bring
me
back.
let me get
Well,
this.
then me and Chad have our own show.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
we'll
this is
totally. You
about.
can absolutely record it. That would be so
let's
fun.
do some current events.
All right, let's do it. First one that we got for today, we're going to go to the NFL/MMA world, where apparently Greg Hardy is taking a full-blown leave of absence from his NFL career and trying to go pro in MMA. Jay Glazer came out hot on the whole idea and wants him blackballed from basically any gym or MMA organization that would think about hiring the guy. For the record, Hardy made $8.5 million out of a $13 million contract last year from the NFL, from the Cowboys.
So
he's not exactly short
what
on
did
money.
he do?
Well,
What's
just
the
a little
story?
background on Greg Hardy. So domestic violence, I mean, that's proven. He got suspended, I think, for 6 games. That got taken down to 4 maybe for domestic violence. And they end up getting suspended even more.
Did he beat up his girlfriend?
Yes. Yeah. Really bad.
Really bad?
Yeah, bad. And then he recently got charged for cocaine. He tested positive for cocaine. He got suspended. So I think this is kind of, obviously he self-sabotaged his career in the NFL, and now he's turning towards MMA. Listen, he was a pro baller for when he was healthy. He's a guy, being older, he could probably make some waves, especially in the heavyweight division, being as athletic as he is. For Jay Glazer to say he blackballs him, it's tough, man. So we're gonna blackball, and I'm cool to black, but if we can't make exceptions. If you're gonna blackball Greg Hardy because of domestic violence, go through the UFC's roster, and then we blackball everybody.
That's a good point.
Because how do you decide? Because I'm not gonna mention names because these are guys that are very well known, and you guys all know them, and they fight on pay-per-view. A lot of them have, not a lot, but there's some
It's also fair
key
to say
guys
that you don't
who have
know-
domestic violence charges.
And you also, it's fair to say you don't know what the exact, in a lot of cases, not in this case, I don't know the Hardy case, but domestic violence cases can be complicated too. Like you don't know the extent.
But all I'm saying is if you want to say Greg Hardy can't compete in MMA because of his history in domestic violence, go through the UFC roster, and a lot of guys, some of your favorite fighters probably not going to be able to fight.
Wow.
And for Jay Glazer to say blackball him in the MMA gym, I love Jay Glazer as a friend, and I think he's a great guy. I know Jay very well. I have nothing but nice things to say about him. He's an amazing person, phenomenal NFL professional football insider and stuff like that, one of the best in the world. But I don't think he has the weight to say, blackball him. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. What Jay was Jay Glazer an MMA fighter as well? Did he ever do any MMA?
No.
Oh, he never did. Okay.
Did you find that in the, and again, I'm not asking you to name names, but I've always wondered that, is there, versus other sports, because I know you have a football background too, is there like a higher percentage of like domestic abuse that takes place amongst MMA, the sport of MMA?
I saw a report on Real Sports, and MMA's, granted, it's a smaller pool because you have 600 guys.
True.
The NFL is a larger pool, but
Sure.
the odds are, the stakes are higher in mixed martial arts and football.
I've always wondered that, yeah.
Mixed martial arts is the highest, I think, at all the professional sports. Smaller pool, and it's not smaller than the NBA.
It's a
is
weird
it?
thing. You got to be careful with the statistics because there's so many different metrics and factors that play into that
But
stuff.
but still, all of them play with those skewed statistics, right? So in those domestic violence charges, whatever happened, MMA has the highest rate of it, which it makes sense because think about
Fighting.
MMA, like who gets involved in MMA? Like I was a failed football player, athlete. I got involved. A lot of times you're getting guys who come from, pressure and,
Financial pressure.
and low economic choices turn people to fighting. So,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Real Sports did a whole thing on it that's brilliant with Bryant Gumbel. What else you got to?
Yeah, they said that the rate of that Real Sports documentary said that the rate of domestic violence in MMA is twice that the national average.
Wow.
Fighters, physical, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know if that works.
Yeah,
But there's a temperament.
not.
Maybe there's a temperament, that I don't know.
I think the
Maybe there's a profile.
desensitization.
Maybe the profile. Maybe you in a sport that requires that level of direct physical violence and
Then all
contact.
football players would have it too.
But maybe that kind of creates.
It's a desensitization,
Maybe that
right?
attracts
I mean,
a
like-
certain profile of men. So it doesn't mean that MMA athletes are that way, but maybe that sport can.
You know what?
attract a
But I
certain
think the
profile.
highest is actually with. I could be wrong. I'm sure you looked this up, Ed, before I get crucified. I think
Yep.
the highest is in ex-war vets. Statistically, I think they have the highest domestic violence rate.
Yeah. Well, all the trauma that they went through, probably.
I think that's correct.
Let's see. It says looking up an article right now from
Like the
NCAA.
statistics, they have the highest. Out
Now,
of
from the National Council of Child Abuse and Family Violence. It says combat vets most prone to domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Gadoo.
There you go.
It's a Yale University study.
Maybe head trauma has something to do with it.
I think just the trauma of the fucking
Well,
PTSD.
but I'm saying with MMA too. I mean, you're talking about trauma, football trauma.
They
I'm
say
sure.
that,
I'm sure
right?
if you look at
head injury,
I'm sure if you look at
creates-
baseball, NBA, it's on the lower spectrum of those
But
professional
head trauma
sports.
creates impulsive behavior. We had that CTE guy on Dr. Drew, and he was saying that it's
Dr. Drew had him on. That was on our show.
Yeah, and they said, I'm sorry, and they said that there are one of the symptoms of CTE can be, or head trauma can be, impulsive, erratic, and even violent behavior. So,
I don't know. It's tough.
mood swings and depression.
What else you got, Ev?
Do you think any major organization takes a chance on him?
100%.
'Cause-
100% someone signs him.
You mean
He'll
that-
have like one or two fights, and then I would imagine a big
How long is he suspended?
Suspended?
from the NFL.
Yeah.
I think he's just leaving.
Oh, okay.
But he did get suspended again. But with his domestic violent charges, no one want to take a. He's a hot mess, hot mess. So no, I mean, good player too, pro baller.
Yeah, 15 sacks in one season in
Jesus.
his career high season.
That's a beast. of a
Carolina
Would
signed
you-
him, and then they just couldn't deal with all the negative press.
Would you watch?
No, I probably I don't care. I mean, I guess if he got to the UFC eventually, and he fought a legit guy, I'd watch. I guess
Because there's kind of like two sides to it, right? There's the side that's like, no, he shouldn't be allowed to compete, and no organization should give him that chance. You're paying a domestic abuser to beat the shit out of someone. It just feels wrong. But on the other hand, you could kind of stack that matchup in a way so that he just gets fucking annihilated, and that's kind of vindicating in some ways too.
maybe not early on. He's such a good athlete. It sounds like he's been training too. He's such a better athlete than anyone involved in the lower levels of MMA.
Like anybody.
He's going to destroy guys.
Yeah, I think he's
Until
been
he gets
training
to
for like a
UFC.
year and a half.
How big is he?
He's 6'4", let's see, I actually
75?
have his Wikipedia.
I enjoy
pulled
that.
up.
I think he's
Buddy.
275.
Enjoy that
He has
shit.
to cut to 65
6'4", 278, and he's 28 years old, so he's
Enjoy
not
that.
that old.
and shred it.
Have
Like
fun.
lean.
Have fun, everybody.
So cut to 65. He won't be. He
Terrifying.
won't have issues till he gets to a legit organization, and then his skill and size isn't going to matter.
Yeah. Next
All
current
right,
event.
on to the next one. We'll do a little quickie on this. Brendan, you called it. Mickey Gall, Sage Northcutt is a fight now.
Sure as hell did call it. What a great fight!
Yeah.
What a great fight, man.
But you were a little worried about that because you felt like Sage is a little much for Mickey right now.
I don't know, man. See, I'm a Mickey Gall fan. I'm a Sage fan. Sage hasn't knocked my socks off. Sage isn't a guy where I'm like, holy shit, he's the next coming of Conor McGregor. You know what I'm saying? Like he does. I think it's a good matchup for Mickey. It makes sense. They have beef. Mickey called him out. Mickey's a guy where, he has a lot to prove. Like beating CM Punk, he got a ton of notoriety for it,
Sure.
but it didn't make him a legit fighter. It was kind of a
It's so
gimmick.
ugly.
You know what I'm saying? It was like kind of like whatever. Now, if he goes and starches Sage Northcutt,
Wow.
Well, now you take that huge platform that everyone watch you beat the brakes off CM Punk, and it just keeps going. Imagine if he goes in and just gets starched by Sage, though. How bad does that make CM Punk look?
Yeah.
So the UFC's smart here because Mickey Gall has this star right now on him. He needs to solidify himself. Sage, he's an up-and-comer, but I like the matchup. They're both young. Whoever loses, they're still going to be a good fighter. But tough fight for Northcutt, tough fight for Gall.
Yep.
You know where I thought
should probably
Gall
bet on
really
that one,
won in that CM Punk thing? I mean, everybody was going to destroy him, right? I mean, it was ugly and it was hard to watch. But in his 2 or 3 minute post interview afterwards, and what a likable dude. I mean, he's just a likable guy. Mickey Gall, his
Yeah.
personality
I like
is
him more.
likable.
Yeah, I like him more.
Like the whole hey man, we're all going to be dead in 100 years thing. Go easy.
Yeah.
He was just an enjoyable guy to watch, and it made you want to root for him. I thought he won.
He speaks
huge
well.
like
He's
that.
a good-looking dude.
I appreciated
He
that
has
he didn't
skills.
beat the shit out of him. I appreciated that he just choked him unconscious. Or he just went, all right, are you going to give up? And what do
he
you think is
still
going to
fucked
happen?
him
He
up
beat the brakes
bad.
off him, but yeah.
Yeah, he was still fucked up in the post conference,
Yeah.
man. His ear was
His
about.
face-
Well,
Eyes-
it's
It's a fight. Yeah. Don't trust me. He wasn't like, I don't want to beat him up too bad.
Yeah, he was
Don't give him that much
yeah,
credit.
that's
No,
true.
he was doing what he needed to do to get it.
What happened to Punk? Is
forgot
he
about
gone
that
now? You
part.
get cut?
CM Punk?
Yeah.
I bet we won't see him in the UFC anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, right? Yeah.
I bet he takes one more just to be like, hey, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that big of a joke. What else you got, Ev?
All right. Next one we got Derrick Rose. So Derrick Rose has a pending rape charge against him right now, and he's testifying that the NBA rookie program teaches players not to leave condoms behind. So what happened was a big part of his defense is that he took the condom that he used in this alleged rape and left with it. He took the condom with him, which for most people, kind of a weird move.
It makes sense, though. They do
For
tell
a mega athlete, that seems legit. Now, I'm obviously not a professional even high-level athlete at any point, so I wasn't sure if these kind of conversations actually happen, but Brendan,
They do.
You can drop some knowledge on this.
Yeah, like as soon, because I asked Evan, but when we came in, what was one of the current events, he told me this, and I went, no, it's not weird. It's actually in the circles of professional sports, everyone says
she might
that.
take your semen.
Because there's been stories of girls taking the semen out of the condom
Yep.
and trying to get pregnant.
Uh-huh.
So he didn't do that because he raped her. I don't know the facts. Maybe he did rape her, but that shouldn't be evidence or him acting weird. Most high level athletes and rap artists, celebrities,
Sure.
are gonna take the condom.
I know. I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's
And I know.
I didn't even blink an eye to him. I'm like, of course he
Yep.
took the condom. That's what he's supposed to do.
I know somebody did that
Yeah,
once.
people talk about it. It's in circles. That's what you do.
Yep.
Bitches be crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He's like, you never know what women are up to nowadays.
Correct. They're
That's a
always- they're always
bummer,
trying
man.
to catch him. Yeah, who knows? That's tough.
So yeah, we'll see what happens with this. But I thought it was interesting that the prosecutors were using the condom thing as
That's a waste
to
of
kind
time.
of to paint a picture that it was a weird move to
That's
pull.
just a couple 1-2 stiffs have never been around the game.
Never been around the
Use as
game.
Evidence. What else you got, Ev?
Last one we got is an article from Barstool saying that Drake and Rihanna have an open relationship. And I got to agree with the second part of that headline. That seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah, the reason I think, but in Barstool, shout out to Barstool, one of my favorite websites of all time. I think we're actually going to be on their podcast when we're in New York, by the way, huge podcast. But the reason it's a terrible idea is because Rihanna, I like the way the dick tastes. Like, if you're going to have an open relationship, you don't want to do it with her who's just, you know.
The hottest thing on the planet.
Well,
Crazy
yeah,
that,
she
yeah.
comes in, she's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Like, why? She's like, I just had the starting five of the New York Knicks run this train on me. You know, like, it's like, what? God damn. But Drake can carry his own, you know?
Yeah.
Ain't
I heard
nobody
they
trying to hear that.
No, hell no. I heard they broke up. I heard they actually broke up.
Hard to
They're
date
not
when
together
you're two
anymore.
megastars and you're so busy.
Or it works, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the only way an open relationship works with two celebrities is if it's an open relationship, because you're not going to see each other. You're in town to town. You hook up there. But when you do have downtime, you have a family, that family life. It makes sense.
I don't know. Everybody says that, but you know, you
Will
get
Smith and
jealous.
Jada Pinkett Smith figured it out. You know, like you look at celebrity
People
couples who
say
last.
these things, but I really wonder. I actually
Does
don't
it
buy
work?
it.
Yeah, does it ever
People
really
say it,
work?
and I don't buy it. I don't think they're having sex with other people. And if they are, they're not telling each other. They might call it an open relationship. They say it out loud, but I just don't buy it. I don't think it. I just don't buy it. I know they say it. It's the cool thing to say. Maybe they do. They try to do it, but I don't know.
I think I'm just
Long-term
too old school,
relationships-
man. I could not care about a
Maybe,
girl
though.
and be like, do you? You know what I mean? I
everybody's
couldn't do
different.
it. Yeah, I couldn't do
Different.
it.
Some, maybe they get off on seeing each other have sex with other people.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're taking the stance, Brian. I really am.
No, I'm just saying.
This surprises me.
No, I'm saying, like,
out of all of the ghost stuff, I can believe. This surprises me. Hey, you know what I don't believe out of this entire show?
Nope.
That comment out of you. Out of all the shit.
Where I would let my wife just like have sex with whoever. Nah, ain't gonna happen.
Well, that doesn't
Not when I
mean
got
people
kids.
don't do it.
I know that. I'm just saying.
Aubrey Marcus does it. Does it very well.
Yeah.
I know other guys in Hollywood who do it too.
Yeah. No, I understand. I know what you mean. I just, that Hollywood thing.
I think people do it. I just think it just seems
they
like it'd be
definitely
hard.
do.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
Oh,
It'd just
yeah.
be hard.
I think it'd be hard.
I mean, an open
I don't
relationship
know.
could be like this too. It's also like, I'm not going to try to control your behavior. You're not going to try to control my behavior. And especially we're big stars. We're doing our thing, you know.
That'd be an open relationship, Brian.
Yeah, but when they say Jada Pinkett and Will Smith and they got kids, they have an open relationship.
Well, they asked Jada, and she went, "We have an open relationship. Like he does thing, I do my thing, and then we have the house. You know,
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I think we just want to.
it's not that hard for me to believe, really. I don't.
I don't think it's hard to believe that it happens. I just think it'd be hard to constantly have the juice be good enough for the squeeze.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It would be hard. It would be like,
Oh, I don't. I
You're
couldn't.
doing a
Yeah,
movie with some
yeah.
dude, you're banging him. That's not going to build resentment. Weirdness. Get the fuck out of here. Especially you're not there. I don't know a guy. I don't know. How about this? I don't know a guy. I actually don't know a guy.
I see, none of my dudes would
with
be
a girl he
cool.
really likes.
none of my
really
homies
into?
would be down with it.
I don't know, man. People seem to pull it off.
Yeah, you and I couldn't. And I'm pretty open.
I do.
Well, but
I
then
do
why
know
do so
people
many
who
guys
do
cheat
it,
on their
but-
girls?
Why do they?
There you go.
Yeah.
So then instead of
they-
an open relationship,
but
they
then-
just cheat on the girlfriend.
Well, that's what I'm
but
saying.
the girl can't do
But
it.
that's what I'm saying is that the operating word is
And you don't-
they
you- and
cheat,
you-
they sneak around,
They
right?
sneak around to it.
There's a
So-
reason they sneak around because if they get caught, the shit hits the fan, they lose the house, whatever it might be. That's what I'm saying is that jealousy is very, very natural. Jealousy is one of those things.
What I'm telling you, B, is you don't think let's take someone who's traveling all the time. Drake, for instance, if he was married, you don't think his wife is very conscious of what he does on the road? Take Boss Rutan, for example. Probably the best open relationship I know of. But I don't think they're open relationship now. But when he was fighting, his wife said, "Listen, I know you're on the road all the time. You're gonna do your thing.
Do your thing.
Just don't fall in love. When you're back home, you're mine." Boom.
I know, and women say that a lot. I'm just saying that may be an arrangement. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean it works a lot of times, and it doesn't mean that I actually believe that they believe that. I think that sometimes people say that as a preemptive strike to protect themselves, and I don't know. The two sides can usually do that where it
Works out.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's just not.
That's what I
it's
thought
not-
you initially meant. Is you said, I don't know if I
It's not
buy it.
now?
If it
Yeah,
works out.
that's what
yeah.
I mean. It's tough.
I think
Yeah, there are people that try it, that try to reinvent the wheel, but jealousy, and especially when you fall in love with somebody, you like that person, that whatever it might be, it's a very, very deeply ingrained human condition. And they've done a lot of studies on that. You want to know where your kids come from? There's this weird shit. There's a genetic sort of predisposition to be territorial over your mate, man and woman. And you can start out that way. You can start out by saying, hey, we're just friends with benefits. Somebody always ends up liking the other person.
Yeah, but to debunk that, then why do married men hook up and have other side pieces and girlfriends?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons they always talk about is men tend to be naturally more polygamous.
Spread their seed.
Yeah, and then women tend to be more naturally monogamous. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule, but remember, when men do it, typically they're doing it underhandedly, right? It comes with guilt, it comes with consequences, it comes with all that stuff. So, you know,
That's a very interesting stand. Yeah, no, I hear you.
I know a lot of.
I believe
people-
more in the
I know-
ghost.
I know people in the music business that have this type of relationship. But what's interesting to me, more often than not, it seems like the female. It's not even so much that they're agreeing to it; they don't want to know. It's
Yeah.
more like just keep me in the dark.
True.
Like
Yeah.
you know what
True.
I mean?
That's
It's not.
fair.
You're right,
they
it's
would
not-
prefer to have the man be
Right.
Who wouldn't prefer
They
to
know
have
they're
the
gonna
person
do it, so they're just saying,
Who
yeah.
wouldn't prefer to have the person you're with be all about you, man or woman? Of
course, right,
sure.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that I have to say is that.
Well, but I think when you're talking about general population, that works. Blah blah blah. When you're talking about people who, if you're on the road 200 days a year and you're on these projects, one's in Italy,
Yeah,
one's in
of course,
Hawaii,
of
you never
course,
see
of
each other.
course, of
It's like,
course.
listen, do
There you
your
go.
thing. Then when we get back to
100%,
California,
100%.
all
Right,
that
right,
shit
right.
stops.
But Yes, that's true. I don't know if I call that a real relationship in a lot of ways when you're gone that long. I don't know how I call.
We're not talking about real relationships.
Right.
You're talking about
talking about
relationships,
celebrity relationships.
where everything's magnified. You're not really together.
Then I don't
the
call
nannies
that-
raises the kids. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like that. They don't live regular lives.
Right. Yeah, and I don't call that a real relationship. Or that's a tough relationship.
It's
to pull
their
off.
relationship though, because they can't afford to have a 9 to 5, or they would not afford, but they can't. They don't have that regular standard setup.
Yeah.
Don't you think that'd be
they make that
tenfold harder
work.
if you had kids?
Hell yeah.
I'd say what, man.
You ever met a kid raised by a nanny?
It's not a good scene.
Not fun.
No, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
What do they call
and
that?
they also-
Affluence?
I don't know, but
affluenza.
You want me to meet a kid who has learning problems and doesn't listen to his parents? It means the parents aren't around enough and they're raised by the nanny.
That's right.
Every single time. If I come to the house, it's a bad kid. It's usually wealthier family. I'm like, oh, I know what's going on.
Yeah, they
here.
call it affluenza. It's a real issue.
Because the kids need
don't
the
have any
fucking
connection.
parents,
Yep.
and this nanny's raising the kid because the parents are off doing whatever.
Dude,
not being
I know
parents.
2 really wealthy couples, and I'm telling you, the nanny raises those kids.
Most celebrity or rich couples I know, I can go in their household right away. I'm like, oh, and all the time.
Nanny's raising the
When's the
kid.
nanny here? Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Interesting. Yeah.
What else you got, Ev?
That's it on currents.
Boom.
I have a dropping knowledge.
Oh, you do? If it ain't about ghosts, I'm gonna.
My dropping knowledge is about ghosts. I looked up if ghosts are in the Bible, and it's tough.
Jesus
because,
Christ, you son of a bitch!
Well, it's tough because
he'd be a
Jesus
ghost, right?
said,
Some would
"I'm
call
not
him
a
a
ghost."
Maybe a zombie.
I call him a zombie.
Remember
would
what
call him a
Jesus said
zombie.
when he walked on
He
water?
physically came back.
When Jesus walked on water and said, when he came back, what did he say? I am not a ghost. I am flesh and blood. That's the whole point of the resurrection.
So he'd be a
He
zombie.
wasn't
He'd be a
resurrected
zombie.
as a ghost. He was resurrected as a man, right?
Zombie.
He
zombie.
came back to life.
That's the definition of a zombie.
Well, no. He would say no. He would say, "I
of
am
course he
actually
would,
flesh and
because
blood."
zombie's a rough term.
You're obviously going to hell, sir.
A zombie's technically
but
flesh and blood.
In scripture,
no blood, I guess.
in scripture,
Flesh.
but in scripture they say that there are no such thing as ghosts, but that because all dead souls go to heaven or hell. However, this is scripture. However, when you do see a ghost, it is usually a demon playing a trick on you. That's what that's from
in
the
the Bible?
interpretation, I think, from the King James.
There
But
are
you know
people
what?
who
There's so many
claim
different
but there's
interpretations.
right. I was just going to say there's so many, and it's like if you want to start down the road of having religious talks, I mean,
Yeah.
let's not even get into the fact that the Bible is straight copy from the story of Osiris and the Egyptian cultures where
Persia, yeah.
where we're literally Osiris, I think, was the same
It's
thing.
actually
He was-
Persian, I think, right?
Yeah, Persian or Egyptian. It's like almost like born in the
resurrection.
manger, Three Kings came, resurrection. I mean, like watch Zeitgeist; it'll blow your mind. You know.
I think that's a Persian. Yeah.
That's interesting, though, B.
Yeah. And then it's-
Let's go to some fan questions.
Fan
Get
questions,
our buddy out of
fan
here.
questions for
Get some
Chad
ghosts to
Calek.
find.
All right, first one up. Why does the Catholic Church still have exorcists, one of whom is located in Chicago, and what do you know about possessions?
Well, it's funny. Their official stance is that they no longer do them, but they do, obviously. Actually, all of the Catholic exorcists meet in Pittsburgh every year. Pittsburgh, believe it or not, is supposedly it has the highest rate of possession cases of any city in America, and they believe it's because the three rivers combine there, and there's a lot of belief of spiritual entities and travels with rivers and stuff. As far as why do they not do them? Well, they do them. They just don't do them in the light of day, and that happened a lot of it since. Oh gosh, she died during her. I did a documentary about her. Michelle. Her name is Michelle something. They did
Obama.
No, not Obama.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know.
There was a exorcism done in which a young girl was essentially starved to death. She got down to 64 pounds before she actually died,
Right.
and the priests were charged.
Yeah.
And one of them actually did 3 years. One of them kind of got off. And after that was over, suddenly the church's stance was, we don't do exorcisms anymore, which they do. And it's also very difficult. People think it's very easy to get one. No, it's not. It's very, very difficult.
You have
You have to convince your local archdiocese. They have to have 3 forms of video evidence that have to be sent to the Vatican. The Vatican, if they agree that that is in fact enough to investigate, they will send an investigator from the Vatican who then has to determine that it is real, in which then you have to go there through a series of meetings, sign about
I'd rather
that
just
thick
be
of legal
possessed.
documents protecting their ass as to what happens to you. So it's like...
Are the
it's,
Warrens still working?
Well, Ed's dead. I mean, Ed died 7 or 8 years ago.
By demon.
And Lorraine is... unfortunately, she's not active anymore. She's alive.
They're
She's
not even
alive.
reaping the benefits of all these movies.
Well, she is, but she's up there in age, so she has a full-time person that lives with her and helps her and takes care of her. I believe, her last case was my family's that she was out.
Oh, wow.
You know, Lorraine is a swear. Just because I want to put an end cap on that story that I said earlier, because I do love Lorraine very much. She
screwed you over for a bunch of years, though.
Well, no. What I come to find out is her reasons and explanations as to why she didn't ever come were completely valid. And basically, it turns out the guys that came to our house didn't actually work for her. They were trying to impress her.
Ah.
So she was like, I don't know who these guys are.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense.
and she was straight up honest with me. And to her credit, when she knew me and I did call her to come help my mother, she did. She showed up and did everything she could to help. So
What else you got, Ev? Let's do 2 more.
All right, let's see here. Let's do...
We got a bunch of questions.
I live in Taiwan, and they believe in ghosts and the afterlife in their culture. Where have you traveled that was more accepting to do what you do?
everywhere but America. I mean, pretty much you go anywhere in Europe and the UK. I mean, I spent some time in Ireland, and I mean, you would be crazy not to believe.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're all about it. Like my mom was
yeah.
born and raised in England.
Yeah,
We'd
England's
share
same way.
horror stories, and hers were just ridiculous.
Banshees.
Australia too. I mean, that culture's based in Aboriginal cultures, and almost all Native American, like land-based religions, are very big believers in the paranormal. Most places that I've been outside the United States, most places are extremely accepting. It's just a part of their.
If you include religion, then you're talking about most of humanity believes in
Some
that which you
form
cannot
of-
measure.
two surveys, Mr. Callen, that you should know about: the Gallup poll and the Monash University survey in Australia, both done within 4 years at time. They both concluded that one said 73%, one said 77% of the population on planet Earth believes in ghosts.
That's right.
That's why your show's killing
He is
it.
the 27% that doesn't.
Sure don't.
But we're going to see him ghost hunting,
I
and he's
sure
going to
don't.
believe.
One more,
I
Evan.
love it.
All right, last one. Brendan and Brian, this one's actually for you. Have you ever experienced anything supernatural? What was it, and how did you react?
I have told the story before. I was on the subway. It was a hot day in August. I don't know if it was August, but for the story, it was August. And it was dog days of summer. There was steam coming up from a grate. A very tall, thin black man with beautiful chocolate caramel skin. And he was so athletic, and he had jeans that were cut off at the mid-calf.
Was he athletic?
I don't know. He just was bouncing because he was bouncing. He was bouncing and dancing and playing the harmonica, and his hair was standing straight on end. And as I walked by him, I just looked at him and I went, God damn! And I put $5 in his bag, or whatever it was, and I kept walking. And he goes, "Hey!" And I turned around and he goes, "You're gonna be famous someday." And I turned. And I go, "All right, man." I said, from your lips to God's ears, you know how. And I listened to the harmonica, and I was like, he can play that fucking harmonica. And I turned back around one more time to get a good look at him, just to get him. And he was gone. And what's
Board
interesting?
the train, Brian.
And what's interesting was that he wasn't in the train. He
Board
was
the train.
as you come down the
Hey,
stairs.
look at me. Hold on. You can argue this, but that video he showed us.
I think it's all bullshit. But listen, as I came down the stairs, I'm saying there was a wall, right, where and even the cardboard was gone. I always tell the story, and he was just disappeared. And I was like, he was an apparition. Now, is that story true? I don't know. I've told that story a bunch of times,
you
so
think
that
it's
makes
true?
it true. Yeah. I might have told that story one time when I was drunk, and it got such a great reaction that I was like, I'm going to keep telling that fucking story. And you know what's really crazy? I don't remember.
You tell the story long enough.
So maybe it was a ghost, you fuckers.
I
you
don't-
skeptic
I don't have any-
motherfuckers, and that includes you.
Yeah, I don't have any haunted stories. I've always believed in. I've heard crazy stories, but I've never really.
Ah, so you believe in the unseen. Great,
Yes.
Brennan. Fucking hell.
Well,
Well, that's a wrap, kids.
Can I plug some stuff?
Yeah, dude, plug whatever you want, brother. Go ahead, man. This is your
October
time.
29th, San Diego. There's a few tickets left. We have our big Halloween show, and we're going to be screening Sir No Face, which I've already invited these gentlemen to come to if they're
It
available.
looks pretty damn exciting. I'll tell you
Which
that.
hopefully they come out December 3rd. Sydney, thank you. We're already sold out for Sir No Face, but we do have some tickets left for December 2nd. You can find all this information at aghtelevision.com. Check it out. You can get tickets there. And again, to everybody about A Blood Red Sky, really happy to let everybody know we got a bunch of distributors and we're choosing soon. So it'll be out soon.
Boom. And your Instagram, Twitter handle is?
Oh, at AGH Chad, as in American Ghost Hunter, just shorten it up. At AGH Chad is Twitter, Facebook.com/Chad Calek, Calek.
Boom.
Chad
Thanks for
Calek.
coming in, my man.
Thank you,
Hopefully,
Chad.
Thank you guys, man. It was a
Frank
blast.
Konami's going to dig this, and
Yep.
we believe in ghosts. Brian does
Oh,
it.
yeah.
This is the Fire Kid with the Ghost Hunter. We're out.